Hi, today we're gonna look at turrets and how to set those up easily. I'm gonna show you two different ways that I typically do turrets. But first off, we're just gonna set up the backup battery circuit, where I have two wind turbines going into a root combiner. This is the power we're gonna use. So we're gonna start off with two electrical branches and a blocker. I'm going to take the power from the root combiner down to the bottom electrical branch. Take the power out from that same electrical branch up to the next electrical branch. Take the branch out from the bottom one into the power in of the battery. This is the one you want to configure to charge the battery. I'm going to set it to 100 right now. So now I'm using 100 of the power to charge the battery, and as you can see, the battery is charging. Then I want to take the branch out from the top one down to the block pass-through of the blocker. Now that the blocker is being blocked, it is safe for me to take the output of the battery into the input of the blocker. Now I want to place my OR switch like so. You want to take the output of the blocker up to input B on the OR switch, and the power out from the electrical branch up to input A. You can see that one of the lights are on. That should now be the light that is connected to the electrical branches. This part you don't need to do, but I'm going to use a counter just to show how much power we have going through. I'm going to set that to show pass-through, and as you can see, we have 71. Now you might think that that's not too much, but we have to remember that we did send off 100 power to the battery. So as soon as the battery is fully charged, of course, you want to set this one back to 0, which is going to give you a lot of power. But right now, I'm going to keep this at 100 to charge the battery. Now that you have your circuit down, you want to start placing some electrical branches. You could use splitters, but that is a non-optimal way to do it, because splitters take a source of power and split it into 3 equal parts. You take your power source over to your electrical branch, and you take your branch out from that electrical branch to what you want to use the power for, which in this case is a turret, which I'm going to pop right there. And as you can see, it does not turn on, because as I said, turrets require 10 power to function. So I can just take the electrical branch and set it to 10, which you can now hear turns on the turret. If I want to turn it off and put some ammo in it, I can simply just set this number to something less than 10, which in this case 9, and that's going to turn it off. I can now configure this one and give it ammo, weapons. So to hook up the next one, you place another electrical branch, take the power out from the previous one to the input of the next one, and set that one to 10, and take the branch out to the turret. That's going to turn on the next turret. If you want to place another one, pop down another electrical branch, pop down your turret, take the power out from the last electrical branch to the input of the next one, take the branch out to the turret, and set it to 10. By doing it this way, you will constantly have an output with all the extra power, which in this case you can see that I have 49. And that is quite good. I can still have 4 more turrets. No problem. Once this is fully charged, I no longer need to charge it, which means I can set this one back to the lowest number possible, which gives me a lot of power, which means now I can have 14 extra turrets. Probably 13, because I need to use 1 power for each electrical branch as well, so this is probably going to be 13 turrets. But you get the idea. That's a lot of turrets for only 2 wind turbines. And of course, because the backup batteries, if the wind turbines get disconnected, you can see the turrets start back up. Once you have your power back up, you can connect wind turbines, and that's now going to take priority and charge the turrets. This is the way I do it for turrets that I have inside my base. Now I'm going to show you what I do for turrets that I place outside of the base. Alright, so for turrets that you have outside the base, they require a bit more power because of the circuit that I use. But what I see most people do is that they have power going to a switch, going from the switch to the turret. They can just flick the switch to turn it off, recharge it, and then flick the switch to turn it back on. The problem with that is that if you go outside and you flick your switch, you go outside to refill the turret, and someone kills you, you will have to respawn and go to that switch and flick it again for the turret to turn on, which is not ideal. People could have gotten past it, gone inside your base, or taken your loot and gotten away before you get a chance to do that, which is not good at all. Which is why I use the circuit I'm going to show you right now. So the components we need is an electrical bench and a blocker with a timer and a blue flashlight. Then you also want to, of course, have your turret. We are going to pretend that this is on the outside of the base now, even though I'm just using this demo station. But you want to take the power out from the blocker to the turret. And this one is quite important. It's going to use the branch out for the blocker. And you want to set this one. I'm going to set it to 11. I'm going to start with 11. I'm going to show you later on that you need to set it to 12 for the light to work, and I'll explain why. But for now, I'm going to take the power out to the timer, the output of the timer to the block pass-through of the blocker. Then you want to take the branch out of the electrical branch from your backup battery circuit over to the input of the electrical branch. As you can see, it does not turn on. The reason for that is because you need to set this one to 15. Once you set it to 15, you can see it turns on. Then you want to take the low ammo. You could, of course, choose whichever one you'd like. I'm using a low ammo because that's going to indicate and make this light blink whenever the turret is below 50 bullets. So we connect the low ammo one to the flashlight, and you can see that it does not turn on, even though I'm sure that the turret does not have any bullets. The reason I'm not using the no ammo one is because I'd like to know before it runs out that it's about to run out. But to make that work, we'll have to set this one to 12, which now makes the light blink. The timer, you want to configure and set the time to whatever you'd like. This is how much time you have to get to the turret to access it. I'm going to use 5 seconds for this one. That's what I usually have it as. So from when you activate the timer, you have 5 seconds to run over to where the turret is and hit E on it. Or that depends on how much you set it to. If you set it to 10 seconds, you're going to have 10 seconds to get to the turret. The reason on why this is better than using a switch is because that if I have this on 5 and I flick it and I run out to the turret and get killed, my body will now be here. But the turret turns back on, which means if there aren't any bullets in there at all, it will defend my body so I can get my stuff without dying. The guy who kills me might think that the turret is actually empty or not turned on or anything, so he is quickly going to grab my loot. So he runs over while the turret is off, but then it turns back on and he will be killed by the turret. Of course, if you don't want the flashlight, then set this one to 11. You can then, of course, also take this one back to 14, as you don't need that. It still works. It still functions the exact same way. Thing is, if you set this one to 13, you're gonna see that it still works, but the timer does not block and stop the turret. So if you're not gonna have the light, use 14 from the main circuit. But if you're going to have the light, you will need to set it to 15. If you're starting out and you want to use this, but you don't have all the components, if you don't have the timer yet, that is completely fine. You can still set up the electrical branch and the blocker, because this works without the light, without the timer, and you can still have these two components. It's first when you get the timer that you'll have to place that, connect the power out to the input and the output of the timer to the block pass-through. That is basically all you need to do. So this works perfectly fine without that, only that you don't have that it turns back on, but if you're gonna have that, you can still set it up without the timer before you get it. Matthew, thank you for the request. If there's any other requests or anything anyone want me to make, anything at all, it could be a challenge, something you might think is impossible, I can probably make it. I have a good feeling about it. I've made some weird stuff with electricity so far, so you never know. But if there's any requests at all, pop it in the comments below, and I'll be sure to do it. Thank you for watching, and have an amazing day.